Hey, Mike, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Corey. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, we got another story, and I don't think these stories ever get old, which is I'm a self-made, and being self-made in this business is, I think everybody starts somewhere, but I think you've got a really unique story. And if you would, I would love for you to kind of open that story up. But before we do that, just tell everybody who Mike is and what Mike's about, and then we'll kind of jump into the story about who you are, brother.
Yeah, sure. So, Mike is an outdoor lover. I've been on a journey, lived a few lives, it feels like already, and I feel like I'm living my best one every day. So it's been a great journey. I couldn't ask, honestly. I mean, last few months even have been living a dream, and I love helping other people get to whatever their dream is. So I'm excited to talk about my story.
Cool. So you started off really as a W-2 employee in corporate America, right?
Yeah. My story is probably like hundreds of millions of other Americans. I went to school. My parents, pushed on me to excel, and I did. I, got great grades, played sports, followed just the normal path, quote unquote. Went to college, got a W-2 job out of college. I was in tech. I started in manufacturing, working, second shift job, and worked my way just up the ladder. And that was the story really of probably 20 years of my life, was really just spent working a W-2, working somebody else's plan, right? And climbing the ladder. And so that's kind of it. And about 5 years ago, as we were talking about, we escaped and kind of found our way into real estate as a way to enjoy lifestyle freedom.
Let's talk about the why. So what happened? Because usually there's something happens that changes the way you were thinking, right? Yeah. Because 20 years you're on this journey, you're on this path, and all of a sudden 5 years ago there's a break in the path. What was that, and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is a little bit different for everybody, and we all have our different personalities. But, for me, I would say in 2016, there wasn't one event, but there was a series of events that sort of opened a path before me. And so, my wife and I were both employed. We were living in Plano, Texas, which is a little suburb out of Dallas. It's not so little anymore. But we both found ourselves out of work that summer for various reasons. The healthcare company she was working for was relocating. My job was really not needed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area anymore. And to continue, I was with Microsoft at the time, and to continue, they're headquartered in Seattle. I didn't want to move to Seattle. And so, I took a payout and a leave. And so we both found ourselves out of work. At the same time, we have two older daughters. They're 22 and 25 now, but back then, one was just entering college, the other was about to go to college. And so we empty nested. And, that whole thought process of interviewing for another company, starting over somewhere, joining a company culture that you know nothing about, potentially relocating to, what companies that were, looking to hire me. I was in supply chain and tech, were all West Coast based pretty much. And I just was getting an ulcer practically thinking about going back into the workforce. And so I would say similar to 99% of every real estate investor I ever talked to, maybe even 100, there's a rich dad, poor dad story back there somewhere where you get exposed to Robert Kiyosaki and his viewpoints of create cash flow. Don't do the W-2, get on the business and investor side of his cash flow quadrant, generate cash flow, and, create your own life. And so that I had recently reread that book and I had been on a journey to look for side hustles to create cash flow. And for me, one of the most interesting ones that I found was in flipping vacant land. I had heard a couple of guys on podcasts that were just buying and selling land, and they were making, triple and 4-digit returns on their investment in a very quick way. And so, I had invested in somebody's educational program, bought what they called a toolkit, Shout out to Mark Podolsky and the Land Geek. He has a whole program out there, an ecosystem. Yeah. But I bought his toolkit, and quite frankly, I threw it on the desk and I hadn't even looked at it because I was working a W-2 job and I was full-time grinding away. Well, then when I found myself with a little time and a little motivation, let's say, I decided to crack that open. And, my wife and I talked about it, and we just said, we have a nest egg. Kids are taken care of. Their college is set aside. We had the ability to, I'll say the word fail. I hate the word fail because it's never a failure. You try something, and if it doesn't work, it's feedback. But, we had that ability where we could say, okay, let's take a risk. Right. And for me, I would say, getting back to your question of the why, my why in my early days was a lot about my family and security and what I thought was security. And so that, that W-2 job, benefits, a 401k, it was stability. It was, incremental steps up the ladder. And then, in 2016, we found ourselves in a position to where we could take a risk and we could go about life in a different way, and we could find something more fulfilling. So we took that second half of that year to really ask ourselves, what is our why and what do we want out of life? And for us, it was to spend more time together. It was to travel. It's to get outdoors and explore while we were still young enough to really do all of that. And so for us, joining the world of the entrepreneurship or the business side and investing, it came about. So like I said, all those things kind of opened up. So we took the opportunity. We downsized. We had a big house in Plano, as most Texans, you have these big houses that you can't afford anywhere else. And so we sold that, and we decided, if we could live anywhere we wanted to, where would that be? And we love mountains. And so Colorado was our destination. And we came up to Colorado in 2017, and we rented for a few years while we were looking for a place to park it, and then figured out if you're a new business owner, you're not going to get a mortgage. So we rented for a couple more years until we till we got our business on its feet. And here just about 3 months ago, we bought our dream home up in the mountains. And I wake up every day and see pine trees and mountains and deer and turkey, and it's just, it's beautiful. So
right on. So I got to jump in. So man, I always say there's always something that happens, right? We're going on a journey, and then there's a fork in the road. And what a great way. And it's almost, it forced you to make a decision when, and that was the same thing that happened to me. I got fired, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, what am I going to do now? And sometimes that's one of the best things that could ever happen. And, look, for you plan, and you're in a great spot to take some time to breathe and to look around, right? Yeah. And to reassess what you really want. And that is so vitally important. I just think so many people most of us are doing Groundhog Day, right? Each and every day, it's the same routine. And you forget that there's life on the other side of that, which is filled with passion and vigor and, and all the things where you can smell the fresh air and the pine trees, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it was like you woke up from 20 years from that, out of the coma, and you said, wait a second. And then you started, and you were fed a little, purple book that all of a sudden it replanted when it became real, right? I'm in a spot, and then it replanted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you nailed it. Like I think so many of us do get trapped in a way in this Groundhog Day type scenario where, it's the great American dream, or, the American life, where we just get over leveraged. We get a house, mortgage, cars, kids get in school. And so we tell ourselves this story that, I have to keep working, and I have to keep grinding away. And it was that moment where we did have a moment to breathe and to introspect and to think about, life in a broader topic, because we weren't just so busy. And, also to your point, I'm a burn the boats guy. It's hard for me to do things in parallel. So if I'm working for somebody, I'm all in. I'm working for that person. I'm giving them, 80 hours a week or however much. I'm traveling, doing all that stuff. And so for me to start something on the side probably wouldn't have worked as well as, in this moment where we just said, okay, we're all in.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll say this is when I see different people, I see, like, when I look at successful people, and especially when I interview them on this podcast too, I'm going to tell you about 99% of the people have this one thing in common that has achieved a certain amount of success, is that there was a time or a point where they pivoted and they went all in. It was at that point that they really said growth and acceleration happened, because you can't do it. You can't do this. You can't do anything part-time or halfway. And you can start to learn and then get kind of in. But like you said, even you put the book on the shelf until it was time to go.
Yeah,
right?
It was doing nothing for me, right?
And then once you get activated, and then it becomes so singularly focused that you really, you're like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. You got
it. And really, you start on the journey of like, hey, I just found this thing that's going to make me some money, which is the land business, buying and selling land. Right.
Yeah.
Now that's not cash flow. We're still getting a W-2 off that, right? Or the wrong type of income. But you started there.
Yeah.
And then tell me about how did you get into bring it back into the cash flow side?
Yeah. So, well, it is a little bit about cash flow. So it's kind of a passive investing system.
Yeah. Okay.
And so 90% of the land we own or finance.
On terms. Okay.
Yeah. So
my buddy Jack Bosch does this.
Yeah. It's a similar system. I know a lot of Bosch people. But exactly to your point, it's not tax advantaged income. So yeah, it's still coming in. We are, so it
better type of income, but just not the best, right? Because you don't get any really benefits on the land side of it.
Right. And so that's the problem we ran into 2 or 3 years later. Once we built our business up into a really nice income stream, then, that first tax bill comes and it's like, holy cow, I don't want to give up all this money every year. And so we started searching for, another purple book, Tax-Free Wealth Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright.
Yep.
Starts talking about,
he's from Arizona too, by the way.
Yeah, he is. Go after depreciation and those kind of things. And so we started this journey into looking at depreciable assets, mobile home parks, storage, multifamily apartments, different types there. And it took us a little while, but we couldn't really find a clear winner, like somebody that said, this is the one. And so for us, we just liked multifamily because of the scale that you can get out of it. And the fact that, especially in the model that we do a lot of value add type projects where you're putting money back into something and improving the lives of other tenants. And so that one resonated. And we just said, hey, let's start here. We do it for a year or two. If we hate it, we can pivot. If we see another shiny object over here, we can go do that as well. But yeah, for us, it was really just about building up that passive income stream, which is not always passive, right? If you're working on something, you have to start it up and get it going. And so there's an amount of energy that has to be put in up on the front end, but we're enjoying the fruits of that labor now.
Yeah. And it's never 1000% passive, right?
Right.
You still have to have calls with your manager, unless you have unless you're creating a business on that side of your, another business to do your investing. Right.
Right.
But if it was all said of like, how much time do you really spend? It's not as much as everybody thinks, right? You don't spend every day saying, hey, we got to go out and make the donuts.
Right. We put in full days, but we have play days, or we go to win for walk twice today. So we just,
it's the funniest thing. I work the same, I say 40 hours, right? It's the 40 hours that I want to work.
Right. Yeah.
And then, but I, like you said, the biggest difference is controlling your calendar. I don't mind working. I actually like working.
Yeah.
Right. I find that it gives me a lot of purpose, but the biggest thing, the difference I think between the entrepreneurship side and having an employee side is you only get those 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever after what they give you, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't line up, and we've got, I don't know, I'm going to Hawaii in a couple weeks for 10 days. I'm going to the Kentucky Derby. You just start planning trips, you put them in your calendar, and then you just go. You go when you want to go, right?
Yeah, amen.
If it's a snow day for Mike, he's going to get some powder, right?
I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. If it's a sunny day, I'm going to go for a hike. My wife is from Europe. We're going to go for the whole month of April. We're going over to visit her family, and we can do it because the money's going to keep coming in. The bills get paid. we can work remotely. We'll do some work while we're over there. And yeah, it's a totally flexible and free lifestyle.
So in this, now we skipped over a lot of the work and the dirt, right? So, because it's not always, we've made it sound so simple.
Yeah.
It's not always so simple, but
Yeah.
I want to jump in the weeds a little bit with it. Because you started, how did you start raising? Were you raising money on your, for the land business? Were you already?
Yeah. Well, when we started our land business, we decided to take a chunk of money and use it as seed money. So we used our own capital. We put it in, we put a time limit on, and we said, let's give this a go and see if we can turn it into something. And so, yeah, the nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts of all that, I've been in operations, my whole life in W-2. So I have a really strong ops and business management background. And so we said, we're going to run this like a business, right? So we put in metrics, we had meetings, we put in targets and all those kind of things. And so we went about, building that business, but we used our own capital to get it going. Just didn't really want to over leverage ourselves. And so we sought out, we said, if we're going to do this full time, let's find mentors and coaches, right? So we joined programs and we found a coaching program, and we had people that helped
for the land, right?
That's what we did for the land, right? We joined a program.
Okay, to get in the land,
to accelerate. Really we also did that in multifamily when we decided we were going to go into multifamily apartment syndication, and we said same thing. Let's find a group, a mentor, a coach, especially on the multifamily side. I would say just because it's such a larger asset and
more things going on in between, right?
There's tons of things going on. It's tens of millions of dollars. A mistake can be devastating to you and your investors, by the way. So yeah, I mean, but we knew, right? I mean, there's so many people out there that why wouldn't we leverage their expertise and all of that? So yeah, I mean, we went about treating it seriously, right? It's not a hobby. We got in it as a business and a way to make a lifestyle. And so and do all those things. So, and so we're trying to give back as well, right? I mean, I help people all the time, every day, almost just reaching out to people that are getting started, whether it's in land or multifamily, or just even wanting to make a career change or something. I love that aspect of that's the one thing I took away from my W-2 career as a high level manager, director, was really building and fostering a team and seeing individuals thrive. And that just, I mean, for me, that's one of my big whys is giving back and helping and serving others. And I love that aspect of everything.
There's no better way, right? Teach what you know, right?
Yep, exactly.
And even if you know that much, a little bit, teach that. You'll become better at it. You'll become a better student and a better teacher the more you master that little craft, right? And you start adding more things in your tool belt where you become masters at, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I am the sensei, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So now, so I understand the whole, the land journey, right? And you turn that into a nice income stream. And then you got into the apartments. Now all of a sudden you come to apartments, it's a different set of rules a little bit, right? And now it requires a lot more capital, right? Probably more than you have saved in your bank account, right?
Yes.
So how did you hit that obstacle, and what did you do to help find a way through it?
Yeah, sure. Great question. We so when we came into multifamily, we spent about 6 months researching, doing some self-study, investigating what kind of a coaching program or mentorship or group that was going to be the right fit for us. And so, we spent about 6 months really doing our due diligence on that front, and we pulled the trigger eventually. And we found a group that felt like a great fit. And we started networking with as many people in that group as we could with an open mind. And so I can say, we came into that group thinking, okay, I'm going to be a kick-ass underwriter. We're going to find deals, and that's going to be my superpower. And, very quickly you find out, wow, almost everybody can underwrite a deal to some level. And, am I really going to create a niche just doing that? And everybody we talked to said they need capital, right, for their deals. And so we said, okay, well, let's pivot and we'll start a journey on raising capital as well. So, that is a different animal altogether. It's building trust with people. It's educating people on what the heck multifamily syndication is, and
what's
is
the
my
cap
money
rate, right?
Yeah, what is the language of multifamily, from cap rates to debt yields to preferred returns, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's so we went about that in much the same way. We found people who were successful at it and modeled them. We've joined some programs to help us sharpen our marketing to go through that whole journey. That marketing is something I am not deeply familiar with from my background. And so, the whole concept of honing in on your avatar and speaking to that person and really reaching out and taking the time to cultivate relationships and build that trust and not hurrying the process. I mean, we're in this for the long haul. And so, we want a good reputation. We want to be reliable. We want to honor our projections, let's say, to people. And word of mouth is it's one of the greatest assets in capital raising, I would say. But it was really going about this and creating almost a totally different business.
It really is. And so I love what you just said there, because the capital, I always say the money is in the capital, right? It's like the Dons, and because everybody's looking for money.
Yeah.
And I always say that's the one thing that I learned how to master early on as well. That is what helped propel me. There's lots of people, finding a deal is more, is instructed, right? Here's the metrics, find this, look for that. Very much, yep. I can grind it and do it. Everybody can do it. Mm-hmm. Finding money, however, is way more personal and way more process driven, right? And it's like, it is a microwave. It is, not oven, and not a microwave. Money never shows up like that. You have to massage it and get to know it, and it has to build trust, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to cultivate all those relationships. And so, right, it's how do you, get the exposure? So, right, hosting a podcast, being on a podcast, educational materials, blogging, going to networking events, those kind of things, right? That's the first step. It's just awareness of someone. But then, for somebody to put 50 or 75 or 100,000 or more dollars in a deal that you're representing, you really have to, for most people, there are people that will do it, right? I'm always amazed that there's some people that will just pull the trigger and go on something, but generally it's about cultivating that relationship.
It really is. Or you got to create some type of presence that people know. Oh, that's where I should
brand
go,
or
right?
brand or presence that people know that you have a track record and you deliver. Absolutely.
And on that note, here's my shameless plug. If you want to learn about Corey Peterson, Kahuna Investments, go to kahunainvestments.com and click on the deal room, and we'll get to know you and get to show you our process and how we raise capital and how we do it. All right, we're back. So I saw a shameless plug.
And I love it. Yeah, it's great.
But really, Mike, how incredible. So in that, this is really in 5 years, right? That's not a long time when you think about it. Everybody's like, oh, that's not really long.
No, and it has flown by, honestly. Especially when you're in it, building a business and doing things. But yeah, that's the power of real estate, right? And that's why so many people love real estate, because you can, whether you have $1 in your pocket, no dollars in your pocket, or $1 million in your pocket, you can use the system to your advantage, right? So I deal with people in our deals all the time that hustle, right? They have sweat equity. And so they're willing to hustle, grind it out to get a slice of a deal to ultimately get some financial equity. And then there's other people that have money and they use that. They want to put up risk capital, or they want to passively invest or other things. And so, I think that is what has, real estate is just one of, if not the greatest asset class out there for that very reason. And
so many ways to put it together, right?
Yeah.
Where everybody gets to win too. And not only just the money, right? The sweat equity guy, but the people that actually live at the property. Because a lot of times, I know you do this. Yeah, we try to make really nice properties.
Yeah. We just bought a property in Texas in November. We closed on it, and last month, February, we started hot and heavy on unit renovations. The owners before it, had not really done a whole lot of maintenance. It's in Texas, for God's sake. It's got a beautiful swimming pool, but it was down. And so they'd gone 2 years without being able to use their swimming pool. And so we're able to come in, we're able to inject millions of dollars in refurbishing this place and uplift the living conditions of tenants and make something really good. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that gets me up every morning is just being able to give back in that way.
Watching that process happen. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the last 5 years, how many, numbers, would you mind sharing your numbers? Like how many units you have, how many assets under management, like just to give an idea of what you did in 5 years?
So we have multifamilies in the last 2 years, I would say. We're coming up. We started in June 2020. And so we had some capital. We joined two deals as limited partners. So we were just passive investors. We put our money in. We learned a lot about the language of multifamily, what makes good operators, bad operators, those kind of things. And then we were able to leverage that into general partnerships where we took on a more active role in putting up risk capital, helping raise capital, helping manage and coordinate property management and things like that. And so that gave us an even deeper level of knowledge about the world of multifamily and how to run a property. We also saw, again, what makes a good operator, what makes a bad operator. We're taking notes on things we like, communication styles, all those kind of things. And then in November, we were able to lead our own deal. So we found it, we brought in the team, we signed on the loan along with another partner. So we kind of saw it soup to nuts, if you will. Yeah.
Right.
So all that told, just to say we're partners in 1,123 units. I don't know exactly what assets under management would be on that. I haven't done the math on it. But it doesn't
matter, right? So I always say those metrics, it's really about the journey. I just wanted to hear and I love the way you told it, which is very more authentic, right? Some people would be like, this is done on my chest. I act like I own the whole thing, right? Yeah. Which is, but here's the truth. You start off as a limited partner, you invested in some deals and you learned, right? Yeah. And then you went and said, hey, I want a more active role. Let me come into the front end of the deal, maybe put some earnest money or some, different type of more risk capital, what it's called, right? Yeah. Get a bigger piece of the pie or get something more, either better return or maybe some part of the GP for that, right? And then, and meanwhile, along the way, you are learning massive amounts of and different styles, because it's not just one deal, it's a couple deals, right? You're in multiple deals doing this.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's very much
front row seat.
Sorry.
That's a front row seat.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and that was exactly our journey. Like it was amazing, the differences in going from the passive investor to being part of the active team to being part of the leading team. I mean, we just, the amount of information that
you start getting, and you start developing your own team and the people that you want to play with, to then all of a sudden now you're like, okay, I'm feeling really probably confident, right? You've seen it happen enough. You've been in enough. Now you're ready to find your own. Mm-hmm. And you did. And at that point, it's like, okay, now I become the puppet master. Right?
Almost. Yeah, very much. I mean,
assemble Voltron, if you're old enough to understand what Voltron is.
Right? I am old enough, yes.
But that's an anatomy of what happens, right? Voltron Unite, you find all the pieces that you need and you put it together. But because you're orchestrating the deal and you actually put it under contract, you now have, which is really important for everybody listening, it's called control. It's your deal. It's Mike's deal. Mike gets to make and call the audibles or how it's going to play out. Yeah. Which is really powerful, by the way.
It is. And I love every bit of it. I mean, like I said, I was taking notes along the way of what I wanted my management style to be and was able to manifest that in our deal. And now, I have repeat partners, if you will, right?
It's people the Deaton equity partners way, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So, we just, we put in a best and final offer on a property last night. I'm waiting to hear, if we got it, but I've already got partners that are reaching out to me saying, hey, if this deal goes, I want to be part of your team. Those kind of things. So, it is powerful and it's humbling as well. So it's a great experience.
Congratulations, my friend. I love, there's no better journey than the one that you're on, especially you said in the open, I'm living my best life, right?
I love every day, I mean, it's, like I said, I didn't, to your point, a 5-year journey. I did not expect to be here yet. My wife and I we put visions and goals and plans together. And our plan was to land in the mountains and have a mountain home. But we had no idea that we would get here already. So yeah, we wake up every day and pinch ourselves and, grateful for every day because you don't know how long it's going to last. But, I'll be grateful in this moment for sure.
Right on. Listen, love the journey. Love this session, man. It really is a testament that no matter where you're at or who you are, there is a journey for you to success. And a lot of times it has to do with being your own boss or creating that path, right? That passive income side. I think all of us want to be, if we read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by the way, which is a great book, is to be on that I side. How to become the investor? How do we make money or where our money makes money? And we just watch it grow, right? It's a great feeling, by the way.
Yes.
So Mike, if you could, any books you've been reading lately that really resonate with you that have kind of turned your needle a little bit?
Yes, I'm a big reader. I love it. I believe wholeheartedly in personal development. Not, doesn't have to be in the woo-woo way, but in educating and growing. So I would say I'll divide them up into two. Real estate. So we've talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Tax-Free Wealth. Highly recommended for anybody. If you're on a multifamily journey, Joe Fairless's book is a great Bible almost of apartment syndications. If you're raising money, Hunter Thompson has a great raising capital for real estate book. One I read recently last year or so that had a huge impact on me was Mindset by DWECK. And it's all about having a fixed versus a growth mindset. And you might think that in business, it's very obvious or in certain areas, but she goes into detail on so many aspects of our life, relationships, parenting, friendships, where, we get caught in these stories that we tell ourselves. But that for me was really profound. Personal development. I love Tony Robbins, Personal Power. Some of those other books are great about modeling others' behaviors and doing things like that. Those are probably a couple of the biggest, I would say. Right now I'm reading more of a philosophical book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, just getting more into the Stoic mindset, things like that, but good stuff.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Listen, I actually wrote down a couple of books there. I've not actually read a Hunter Thompson's book, but I know who he is. And I know he raises lots of money. So yeah. I'll give that check on. Just for everybody, I'm reading right now. It's called The CEO Does Three Things by Trey Taylor. And for me, I love this book. This is a new book on how to elevate yourself to the CEO. And it says a CEO must do three things, and only three things, which is people, culture, and numbers. And it was really profound. It's a great book. So
all right.
Anytime you're reading
notes on that one.
Anytime you're reading something, it elevates you to a higher plane or just gives you some information. That's what books do is, people write these things, not because, they usually write it because they're passionate about it and it changed something. So I always that's why I love reading books. Sounds like Mike likes to write them as well, or read them as well. So, and Mike, as we kind of close it up and wrap it up, what would you want to, if you could encourage I'll call it, I think we have a good amount of new people and somewhat seasoned people. And I would like to say, what would you tell them both, or tell each one separately? What would you tell them?
So we started off this podcast in something that I love to try and impart on people is give yourself that breathing space, as you called it. Like, take the time to consciously step back and know thyself, as they say, right? Think about, what do you want out of life? It's going to go really quickly. And so, an exercise I like to do, I also do a little coaching, life coaching and executive coaching. I keep one or two clients usually because I put in a lot of energy on it. But an exercise I like to do is either think of, a 90th or 100th birthday and you've got people all around, or it could be a eulogy or whatever, but step forward into your life and look back on it. And what are the things that are going to have been most important to you, right? And it's not that you bought the newest car or you did something. It's the experiences you have and the friendships you make and those kind of things. And take that back and figure out on your path, are you getting closer to that or are you not getting closer to that? And so that's kind of a fundamental life type tool. In the world of business/investing, I would say, find what resonates with you, but take the time to get educated to a point, right? We can all overanalyze things and overeducate, but then act, right? Find a way to take an action. You can join a multifamily syndication for usually $50,000. You can probably even negotiate a smaller slice of that. I know a lot of deals will advertise a minimum, but if you talk to the sponsors or whatever, you can usually put in a smaller piece if you want. There are funds out there that allow you to invest an even smaller amount of money just to get the experience and to get the taste. But I would say the other point that we brought up is whether you're happy in your W-2 job, whether you are thinking about quitting and starting your own gig, or whether you just want more financial and lifestyle freedom, explore real estate. And if it's not real estate, some other form of passive income, because it can liberate your lifestyle, right? I mean, it just, I hear it every day. I talk to people that are on the same journey, and it's just astounding how many people have found a path in this.
Amen, brother. Well said, well said. So if people want to reach out and get a hold of you and find out more about Mike, where do they go?
The best site for us is DeatonEquityPartners.com. We have a landing page if you'll just do DeatonEquityPartners.com/freedom. And I've tried to put a lot of our information there, right? So we have, I have a primer on land investing. If you're interested in getting land investing with a few resources, I have a primer on multifamily. If you think you're interested in multifamily, my contact information is there. If you want to email or call me, I love talking to people about it. So please feel free to reach out. We have a newsletter. So it's all kind of consolidated right there. That's probably the best one-stop shop. And then you can get me any other way from there. Perfect.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming on this podcast. Guys, what an amazing story. What an amazing journey, Mike, of being in the corporate world, realizing and kind of getting in a spot where you have to make a choice, but taking the time to, like we said, breathe and to figure out where you want to go, and then being very methodical in that process and doing the research and finding the right groups and getting mentored and taking action. That all happens not by chance. It is a purpose and a journey that you've been on. And I think a lot of times success happens not to the stronger or faster man, but to the one who thinks he can, right? And your power of your mind, I think, is the most powerful thing you have. And guys, you have to use it, and you have to feed your mind daily that you are worthy, right? Guys, if you believe it, you can achieve it, and your paradise is possible.